Okay, before I start reading my notes, how this kind of came about is Bridget and I have grown quite close over the past year. And she and I were talking on the phone in the pickup line waiting for the kids, and I randomly kind of threw it upon her that I kind of wanted to give a testimony. And this is stuff that I never thought I would share with anybody besides my family. So she said, well, would you do it like hunting season? I thought, well, that's awfully soon, but I kind of wanted to do it on November 24th. And she said, well, Shane wasn't going to preach maybe that day, so we ended up working it out. And so there's a significance to today. And so that's how I'm talking today. All right, so first I thought if Annalyn can get up and sing songs, I should get up and share my testimony. She's kind of broke me out of my shell a little bit. So obviously this is way out of my comfort zone, and it's very vulnerable, and I don't really like doing that in front of people. But I just kept feeling a tugging at my heart to share with everybody, just so maybe I could just help one person. All right, so here we go. Many of you know Mom's journey with cancer, but I can assure you that you don't know my perspective on it or what I went through alongside her. Today, I'm going to try to paint a picture of It's probably my hair. It's probably. Yeah. But I'm going to try to paint a picture of life the past year. Although it's just a glimpse of it, I feel like it can help somebody out there. So there's a significance to today, November 24th. This is the week of Thanksgiving, as well as the 1-year mark of Mom's cancer diagnosis. So I thought what better time to share what my family and I have been through. November 29, 2023, a day I will never forget. The day my mom got the phone call stating that they found ovarian cancer on her scans. She was in miserable pain for weeks, months, before we actually got the call. And the pain was uncontrollable, and it was a pain I would never want to see a stranger in, let alone my mom. We had been to several appointments, ER visits, and many tests and scans had been performed starting late in September, and we had no answers for the pain until November 29th. Many of you know my mom and I have always been very close, but not only was I watching my mom suffer, but that was also my best friend, the one I did everything with. Now, I had been through hard times with my kids, NICU stays, surgeries on both of them at very young ages, trips to ERs, and I had been one that had always stayed positive with the kids' diagnosis. I had always told people it could be worse. Well, Mom's cancer diagnosis was my worst nightmare. It completely rocked my world. It was exactly that faith-shaking hard moment that Annalyn just sang about. My whole life stopped, and suddenly nothing else was important except finding a way to get her better and spending as much time with her as I possibly could. So, the day she got the call, she came to town and she stayed with me all day. I was currently preparing to leave the next day with Greg's family to go to Mexico. The kids were super excited, and everyone was looking forward to it. She helped me pack, we cried some, but honestly, we both handled the news really well. We kept saying, well, no wonder you'd been hurting so bad. And I was doing pretty good, she was too, until the moment she left my house. For the first time, I thought, what if she leaves here and I never get to see her again? That hurt. But clearly she needed to go be with my dad, who was also hurting. Greg got home from work and told me, there's no way we're going to Mexico. And I told him, no, I'd be just fine. I didn't want to let my kids down. I thought, it's just a few days, I'll be back home, and I was adamant we were going, and it would be okay. I called Mom. She was telling me to go. Little did she know I knew she didn't really want me to go. Then I talked to my dad, and he talked sense into me too and told me just to go. I couldn't run this for my family. So we go, and we're driving to St. Louis, and of course I'm crying the whole entire way. Enough that Greg turns around, and he heads home, and he said, and I keep telling him, no, I'm fine, let's just get to St. Louis. That's where our flight was out of. So we go to St. Louis, and now we're at the airport, and I felt like there's no turning back. By now I've cried more tears than I thought was humanly possible. I was constantly reading these Bible verses. I actually pulled them out of my purse this morning. These are the ones that I had in the airport with me that I always keep with me. So I'll stop and read one of these. A lot of you that follow Mom's Facebook page probably remember up top it says shaken, something like that. This verse came from these cards, and it says, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. Psalms 55:22. And then this one also gave me a lot of peace. It says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. John 14:27. But I was constantly reading these Bible verses, and I remember being surrounded by my happy kids, my in-laws, and complete strangers, and I just kept crying. I had never felt as alone as I did there. I was questioning God now, and I was getting angry and bitter and asking why. Why my mom, why my family, and why us? Which then I turned that into pleading, but not for a cure like most people probably think. I was begging him to not let me be here alone. Show me something that he cares, just a little bit. I just needed a glimpse to reassure my faith and keep my head straight. And I was longing to not feel as alone as I was in those moments. So now we get on the plane. I'm sitting by Annalyn and my father-in-law. I was keeping it together then for a little bit until the plane got in the air, and then I felt trapped. I couldn't get home if I wanted. You guys all know that ugly cry we try to hide? That was me, right in front of everybody in the middle of the airport in the airplane. My poor father-in-law had no idea what to do with me because he had never seen me like that, and very quickly got Greg to come sit by me. It was seriously the longest flight of my life. We landed in Mexico. I look out the window and there was rain, and I remember thinking that's odd because I've been to Mexico several times and I never really saw a lot of rain, but I felt some kind of peace. While we're getting our luggage and about to go through customs, the attendants through customs took all of Annalyn's food that she needs to stay healthy. She's on a special diet, and she had to have those foods. Well, they took that food, and at the same moment, I've been waiting for a lab to come through for Mom's diagnoses. We had been waiting for a tumor marker number, and so that number came through at the exact same time. Normal was 35, and I received hers, and it was 402. I instantly knew then we were in for a fight, and it was much worse than what I had originally told myself it could be. I fell to my knees in the middle of this airport, bawling like that very dramatic movie, but unfortunately it was real life. I couldn't control it. My sister-in-law came over and prayed with me on my knees in the middle of the Mexico airport. I knew then I wanted to go home, but everybody was telling me just to get to the resort. The sun had popped out by then, and we were burning up hot waiting to get to our resort. It felt like we stood there forever. Well, we got there, and I had decided that I couldn't do it, and I just needed to come home as soon as I could. We spent a ton of time getting that figured out, and the kids just kept asking to go to the beach. So we went ahead and went. We get out there, and there it is again, rain. Not a little, but a lot. So much that everybody around us was packing up, and I just sat there feeling that warm peace yet again. The next morning, we had some time before our flight, so we were walking to breakfast. I was still super sad, and on the way, you can probably guess what happened by now. It was raining. I know Greg probably thought I was losing my mind by then, but I tossed my hands up and told him that was it. That was my sign he was sending me. It's rain. He heard me, and he does care, and I instantly felt relief. Well, Greg got me home, and of course, I raced to see my mom. I felt that peace when I saw her, too, and I thought, we're going to be okay. Well, fast forward, and we find out Mom's cancer is genetic. For her and her prognosis, that's wonderful news. She had a fighting chance now. For me, that meant I needed to get tested, and her oncologist would ask me every single appointment, have you tested yet? So I prayed about it probably for a few months, and I decided to do the test. While waiting for the results, I was doing my pleading again, but this time I was saying, if my brother or I have to have this gene, just let it be me, because I can handle this all better than he can. Knowing more now, he could also have the gene. It's actually 50% in each child, regardless if one has it or the other. But the results came in, and I indeed have the BRCA1 gene with her variant. Surprisingly, I was at peace with this too. I thought, that's okay, at least it's me. Not a tear was shed, and I thought, Mom's going through her chemo and being so graceful, so of course I can do what I needed to do as well. So I soon made some appointments with oncology to see what all I needed to do and what all the BRCA1 gene meant for me. I spoke to or saw 6 different surgeons before making any decisions. All of them said the same stuff. The gynecology oncologist stated I had a 58% chance of getting ovarian cancer. That doesn't seem that high, but it's actually a very high risk. She told me the problem was there's no real good way to test for ovarian cancer. And when I had an elevated number or a test came back, it would just be too late and I'd have to go through chemo. I truly struggled with the decisions to do surgery and to be proactive. I didn't want to play God. I didn't want to take that role. I talked to so many people with all sorts of opinions. Some were saying you'd be silly not to do the surgeries, while others were saying I wouldn't do them. I even expressed those concerns with my gynecology oncologist. She was the same one that Mom used. She responded with an analogy, and it went kind of like this. She said, what if you see it like this? What if you're in the middle of the ocean and you're drowning, and God sent you a boat and you passed? You said, no, thank you. I'm waiting for him to actually come save me. Well, then appears a helicopter, and I say, no, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to keep waiting for God to come save me. She said, then you might pass away, and you get up there to meet God, and he says, hey, it's nice to see you, but I sent you a boat and a helicopter, and you didn't get on either of them. So I took that, and I thought and I prayed a lot, and I decided maybe God is just giving me some of those warning signs. Maybe this is his plan, and he knew that I needed to do some of this stuff to be here for my children. Therefore, Greg and I already knew we didn't want more children, so on June 25th, I had a full hysterectomy. When I went in to receive my pathology report from my surgeon, the same one that Mom used, she told me if you were second guessing whether or not you should have had this surgery, you had the exact same cyst in your fallopian tube that your mom had that ended up being the start of her cancer. It could have turned to cancer at any point. I haven't really looked back, and I feel God was opening doors to keep me here. Also, with being BRCA1 positive, it puts me at a high risk for breast cancer. I originally went to Mom's breast surgeons. He was so great with Mom, and I completely trusted him. He told Greg and I that I had a 94% chance of developing breast cancer. He told us then it's not if I get breast cancer, it's only when. He ordered the mammogram right away. I did that, and a few days later, he had called me, and he had told me I have very dense tissue present as well as small masses scattered throughout both of my breasts. He said if I proceeded with the double mastectomy, I wouldn't have to go through the MRI process, which was steps to ensure that the masses weren't cancerous. But Greg and I had decided we'd go ahead with the surgery. I scheduled that for August 26th. Mom had her mastectomy on July 10th, and I got cold feet after seeing her go through it. I would have woke up flat and had to have another surgery later on, and while originally I was okay with that, I saw Mom and thought, nope, no way, I'm not doing that. I called and canceled my surgery right away. His office kept calling me relentlessly, and I just kept ignoring them because I figured they were going to try to talk me into the surgery. I decided I'd find a surgeon somewhere that would do a mastectomy and place implants so I'd only have one surgery and I would not wake up flat. I finally found one in Joplin, and anybody who knows me knows once I make up my mind, that's it. I don't change my mind, I'm a planner, and I had made up my mind that I was not doing 2 surgeries and I was going to do the 1 surgery, and I didn't care what I was going to jeopardize in order to get it all done at once, which is not the standard of care in my situation. So I scheduled that in Joplin for September 17th. After this, though, the doors began to open and close all at the same time. Mom had an appointment for a follow-up for her mastectomy September 6th with her breast surgeon, and to be honest, I was dreading going with her because it was now awkward, because I canceled on them and then kind of ghosted them for multiple phone calls. Well, he took great care of Mom, and I think we're done, and I thought I dodged a bullet. When he starts in on me, he turns in on why he does everything in the order that he does. And he's telling me, I don't even care if you do the surgery, but you have to go through the MRI before December. He was so caring, and I could tell he genuinely thought I was making unsafe decisions. And he said, if you do it all at once, you're going to have multiple surgeries because that wasn't the standard of care and I'd have complications. Mind you, I didn't even mention to him that I had a different surgery planned or scheduled. I just told him, after seeing Mom, I can't do it. Well, now Mom and I are leaving, and I'm second-guessing everything. I had even taken off work, so had Greg, and I wanted to call and talk to Greg really bad, but he was deep into the mountains hunting with no service. So I'm kind of on my own, and I'm thinking he's literally going to kill me when he gets home from the woods, and I tell him I've changed my mind yet again. He was, of course, not frustrated or mad, and he said, makes sense, and I support your decision. I called back the Springfield surgeons to see how long until they could get me in, since we had already taken off work, and they tell me just a week later on September 27th. So Monday I called and canceled my surgeries in Joplin. Keep in mind, That office, still to this day, has never called me to reschedule any appointments, nor have they told me I needed any further testing. I end up officially scheduling again with the original surgeons. I go to work on Tuesday. I meet this new patient. She and I form a bond instantly, and she happens to tell me that she's been a chemo nurse, but for 14 years prior, she happened to take care of all of the mastectomy patients overnight after their surgeries at Cox Hospital, which is exactly where I'd be in a few weeks. She's talking about her favorite surgeons and the ones she would trust and the ones she's seen all good things from. And it was the exact two that would be happening to work on me. I instantly felt as if God had gotten me here, and he shut doors and he opened others, and then he gave me confirming signs by sending that lady in. I all of a sudden was kind of at peace with the surgery, and I had several appointments leading up to my surgery date. And even after canceling my appointments prior, I was greeted with hugs from my surgeons and the kindest people that were so encouraging. My plastic surgeon was quick to reassure me that I was in the place I'm supposed to be in now, and he promised that he was going to take good care of me. So needless to say, I had my surgery on September 27th. I'm now flat, and I'm going through the expansion process. That process is long, and I have weekly appointments right now in Springfield to fill these expansions. And I will be having another surgery probably around February. But on the day of my surgery, I was headed to the hospital and feeling a bit nervous and just uneasy. And you won't believe what fell on our windshield. The smallest drops of rain. I think it was for my eyes only. There again, I was reminded through all of this, he's still here and he's still showing me that he cares. I say all this to say, in the past year, I've grown closer to God through the hardest year of my life. I read his word daily, I pray more, I talk about God more than I ever have. I was a Christian before all of this, but I have grown tremendously in my faith. Something I never really heard people talk about or say, or I thought I would ever say, is that I'm so thankful for my mom's cancer diagnosis. I truly feel that Mom had to suffer the way she did in order to bring awareness to all of her loved ones who could be impacted by this gene mutation. I'm truly thankful that she endured the suffering which prevented myself or my children from having to go through this torturous journey one day. I get to be here, God willing, for my husband and my children just a little bit longer. All thanks to something that was so extremely devastating just a short year ago. So as we go into Thanksgiving week, I encourage you all to enjoy each second with your family. You just never know how quickly things can change. But even through some of those changes, there's growth that can be at work even when you can't see it. One last reminder, God is good. All the time, God is good. Thank you for your time, and happy Thanksgiving.